La 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 la. Okay, good. I see some meters going on there. That means the sound is working. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Firearms Friday. We got some stories this morning. I got two that I want to cover before we dig into some DGUs. But I got some good DGUs today too. Here's hoping we can get to all of it. I got a little time this morning, so if we have to go over, I'm happy to do it. And yeah, let's do a show, guys. Good morning at Firearms Friday. Good morning, guys. I see Mr. C drew first blood this morning. I got Steve with us. Good morning. I got another Steve with us. Good morning. Megan joins us, and I see Pitt Danny. Good morning, y'all. Thanks for coming in. So, I got two stories here that I want to cover. Well, kind of three, but really two of them are the same story. If I'm being honest, I'm struggling a little bit with which one to do first, but I'm just going to go ahead and swing at Ethan Crumbley first. So, I'm not really going to talk about the story of Ethan Crumbley. I'm going to talk about the story of his mother. But to get y'all the context, I'm going to give you a quick recap. So, Ethan Crumbley was sentenced to life without parole for the Oxford, Michigan school shooting. Right, this was back in December. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald said that they are comforted that there is some sense of peace and closure after a judge sentenced Ethan Crumbley to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, I mean, the kid did a school shooting. He shot. I think there were four dead and a bunch of other injured, right? Killing. And he was found guilty. You know, he was tried, convicted, found guilty, put him to death. Go. I mean, that's what the death penalty's for. If murderers, certainly mass murderers, like, hey, TJ, I'm looking at you, sweetheart, because you're out. For those of you who don't know, T.J. Solomon was the shooter at Heritage High School. When I was a senior in high school, so we're talking a little over 20 years ago. Just for a little clarity, T.J.'s out. T.J.'s been paroled. He's been out of prison for 5 years now, 5 or 6 years now. I haven't heard anything about him since that. But he's. As I understand it, he's out and he's free, and he's probably got a shitty job and a life that sucks and a drug habit, but, you know, I don't support the death penalty as a penalty. No, I didn't mean to switch back. I don't support the death penalty generally as, like, a penalty, right? Punishment is something you learn from. Punishment is what the teacher, the master, the drill sergeant uses to associate your bad behavior with pain so that you learn not to reproduce the bad behavior. Right? You know, your rifle is like a funky beat. When you drop it, you got to get down with it. Eventually, a private either gets tired of doing push-ups or he hurts himself and med boards out of the Army. Right? But the rifle stops getting dropped, and that shit's important. when you're talking about violent criminals who are likely to reoffend, and let's be very clear, when you're talking about these school shooting cases, you're talking about somebody who is scribbling in their notebook about how the world is unfair and they have to do something. I have to fix it, and the only way to fix it was with violence. Right? This is a person who has a serious mental illness, or is simply evil. The probability of recidivism there is basically baked into the mental condition. So it's not capital punishment; it's capital precaution. Because dead murderers don't murder people, dead terrorists don't terrorize people, right? Dead murderers don't murder people, dead rapists don't rape people, and dead terrorists don't blow up fucking buildings. So I'd be good with that. Life in prison, that means he costs us money for the rest of his natural life. But those are the basics, right? This kid had shown the signs. He was a clear and present threat, and the school, the police failed to take action. And here's where it turns interesting. Just within the last day or two, Jennifer Crumbley, mother of Ethan Crumbley, the perpetrator of the Oxford High School shooting in Michigan, was convicted of involuntary manslaughter for the deaths of 4 students in the November 2021 incident. I want y'all to let that sink in. This woman was convicted of involuntary manslaughter because her son murdered people. Involuntary manslaughter, right? And y'all need to understand some stuff going on here. This is insane. Ethan Crumbley, 15 at the time, is serving a life sentence after pleading guilty to 24 charges, including first-degree murder and terrorism. Prosecutors highlighted the negligence of his parents, who bought him the gun and ignored multiple warning signs. The school had summoned the Crumbleys on the day of the shooting due to Ethan's concerning behavior. The school had summoned the Crumbleys on the day of the shooting due to Ethan's concerning behavior, including searching for bullets online, watching shooting videos, and drawing violent images. Okay. If the behavior is sufficiently concerning that you need to get the parents involved, and the parents aren't doing anything, that cannot be your last measure. You're talking about the teachers and the administration at the school. They are spending at least as much time with that child as the parents are. And they are constantly and consistently engaged in the manipulation of that child's mind, for good or for ill. Every member of the staff and faculty at that school that has interaction with this kid bears at least as much culpability, legally speaking, as did the mother in this case. So, sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. If Jennifer Crumbley is guilty of involuntary manslaughter, then we need to see the staff and faculty of every school that has ever had a mass shooting, the parents of the perpetrators, the police departments that provided security for those facilities, the local school boards, right? If it's sauce for the goose, then that's your gander. If the people who didn't do the crime are responsible for this kid doing the crime, then they must all be. That's the basic tenet of equal application of law, right? 14th Amendment. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not making the argument that this woman should be culpable, should be held liable, should be convicted of manslaughter. I'm making the argument that under the law, if the argument is made and passes that she should be, then the same holds true for everybody else in that chain of contention. Every other layer of authority related to that child, right? Every teacher, based on the logic of this court's decision, every teacher who has ever been in a school where there was a mass shooting and did not immediately produce a concealed firearm to put down the shooter is personally liable for every death that happened in that shooting, according to this legal logic. Now, here's another piece that I think needs a lot of attention where this is concerned. This boy was tried and sentenced to life in prison for the crimes that he committed. There's no doubt about his committing the crime. He confessed to it. There's surveillance video. Nobody thinks he didn't do it. Nobody's going to make an argument that he's innocent. He was tried as an adult. Now, if he was tried as an adult, which means that the legal reasoning here is that despite his not yet being of the age of majority, given that he's 15 years old, legally a minor, that because of the severity of the crime and the evidence related to his mental capacity and his state of mind, his mens rea related to the actual criminal activity, that he is functionally an adult, which means to bear the responsibility of that criminal activity. If you can convict Jennifer Crumbly of involuntary manslaughter based on the crime that her son committed, then legally there is no reasoning to justify him being sentenced to life in prison, because the point to trying minors not as adults is the legal reasoning argument that they do not have the mental capacity to make adult decisions, and so they should not bear the legal responsibility of making mistakes at that level. That's how you end up with that's why gangbangers like to send 13, 14, 15-year-olds to conduct assassinations. That's how you get jumped into the gang with your first couple of murders. You do them before you're an adult. The court goes easy on you. You've got a little bit of a jacket now, but once you're grown up and already jumped into the gang, then you've had a taste of the legal system without taking the risk of actually going away forever. Right? So if Ethan is an adult for the purposes of his conviction, then that conviction itself vitiates any argument to support the idea of Mrs. Crumbly being convicted in connection to any culpability for the negligent act. Because that's the argument that they're making with the involuntary manslaughter here, is that what she's guilty of is being aware that a risk existed and then refusing to or neglecting to take reasonable care to mitigate the probable outcome of that risk. That's ludicrous. But let's be clear. This is not even about the assignment of blame. What's happening here is activist prosecutors and an activist weaponized justice system, right? I want y'all to keep this in mind. Look at everything that's happened to Donald Trump with the DOJ. Look at the recent finding on the DOJ just made their arguments for not prosecuting Joe Biden in the classified documents case related to Joe Biden. Remember, Trump's in trouble for having kept classified documents that are, where he was conducting an activity that is explicitly protected by the Presidential Records Act. Whereas the classified documents that Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden mishandled there's no room for interpretation where there's some possibility that may have been okay. right? It may be that Trump was wrong to handle the classified records the way he did, but there is a Presidential Records Act that says he's allowed to keep some classified records. And the question that we're probably never going to get an answer to is which records he kept and which ones he wasn't supposed to, if any. But the fact that Biden had any classified records that's it. That's the law, broken there. But the DOJ has decided that they're not going to pursue that because he's not, I shit you not, because he is not mentally competent to understand that he committed a crime. Tim Lowry says the YouTube overlords are banning one of my comments. Tried 3 times. Go put it on X. Elon's friendly to you. Go make your comment on X, Tim. We're live on X. You can just pop over to Twitter and make your comment, and I'll read it out loud on YouTube and see if they throw us off. It'll be a hoot. So, what they're trying to accomplish here is they want you to be afraid that if something goes wrong, they want you to be afraid that having a gun in the house has an additional layer of risk. It's not dissimilar to the trick they're pulling, to the propaganda trick they pull when they tell you, if you're more likely to be shot with your own gun in the event of a home invasion. Tim asks, can I get the link on X? He says he can't get the link on X to play, so let me check that out real quick. So they try to tell you that you're more likely to be shot with your own gun. Sorry, I'm trying to do 3 things at the same time. There's the link. Go over there and make a comment. Hopefully. They tell you that you're more likely to be shot with your own gun in the case of a home invasion, et cetera, and guns just aren't safe to have around. This is just another layer. Oh, and by the way, if somebody steals your gun, how far stretches it now from, the house got broken into while none of us were home, right? I took the wife and the kids down to the farm for Thanksgiving dinner, and I came home and found that somebody had broken into my house, and among the many things they stole was one of my firearms. And, I call the cops, they come investigate, I fill out the paperwork. I report that a gun was stolen. 6 months later, some liquor store gets knocked over, right? A couple of people dead in a crossfire. They catch the guy, and they find that he's got my gun. Oh, well, hey, cool. Now we know who broke into my house. Hey, can I sue him civilly to recover the cost of the property that was stolen? Oh, yeah, Mr. Lowry, you can do that. Oh, but by the way, we're filing charges against you for involuntary manslaughter because your negligent firearm ownership contributed to the death of the people in the gas station. What the fuck, you? What? That's what they're going for. Their objective is, and I don't feel like I'm being hyperbolic here, right? I'll take you back to when the McMichaels case happened, and you had BLM terrorists basically racketeering to terrorize and extort recusals out of the several DAs that agreed that no charges were available because it was a clear-cut case of self-defense, right? And back then I pointed out, look, the objective of these people is to color code people and say the darker your skin, the more liberty you have to commit violent crime, especially against those with lighter colored skin. And I thought I was being hyperbolic then. I thought I was speaking hyperbolically to make a point. It turns out it's way worse than I thought it was. So our entire justice system is just for sale to the highest bidder. And frankly, you don't even have to bid that high. You could just bid, "I'll spank you if you say anything." Steve says, starting to think our national doomsday clock is moving another minute ahead. Yeah, it do kind of feel that way, don't it? So yeah, they want you to be afraid that the mere ownership of a firearm has the potential to tie you to involuntary manslaughter, no matter what happens related to that firearm. So you will be the victim of a crime, and then, if you're not dark enough, you'll be tried and convicted for the actions of the criminal that victimized you. Let me I'm gonna pull up the next story, and this only speaks more to the point of what I was just saying about the absolute utter corruption of our justice system. Now, a blind squirrel gets a nut every now and then. I'm actually very optimistic about what's going on at the Supreme Court with relation to the Trump ballot case, whether or not Donald Trump could be thrown off the ballot by individual states. I think I actually think there might be a chance we see a 9-0 on that. And for, those of you watching who are part of the infamous thread, you've got the proud Latina and Black Girl Magic up there. I think they're both going to have to swing for Trump. It's going to be, they're going to hold their nose and do it, but I think they're going to be forced to do it, basically. You might have Ketanji, what is a woman, Brown Jackson, do the wrong thing, but I think they're going to be pushed. But let's take a look for a moment at Hawaii's Supreme Court, right? State Supreme Courts in liberal districts are scary. Scary. Hawaii's High Court cites The Wire in rebuke of U.S. Supreme Court decision that expanded gun rights. Oh, God. A ruling by Hawaii's High Court saying that a man can be prosecuted for carrying a gun in public without a permit cites crime drama TV series The Wire and invokes the spirit of aloha in an apparent rebuke of a Supreme Court decision that expanded gun rights nationwide. Okay, I gotta clarify something for you real quick. There has been no Supreme Court decision to expand gun rights. It never happened. That is a lie. Let's clarify what did happen. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Your right to keep and bear arms is unlimited. No law which asserts to the contrary is tolerable to a free man, a free nation, or the Constitution of the United States of America. Every law which in any way makes it more difficult for you to purchase a firearm is a criminal act committed by each signatory to the original proposed bill and the executive who signed it into law. And if I had my way, we would try each and every one of them for suppression of civil liberties under color of law, under Section 242, and we would apply the standard detailed in the law where the punishment for the crime of suppressing civil liberties under the color of law is punishable with a sentence up to and including fines, jail time, or the death penalty. And the severity of that punishment is determined based on the severity of the harm caused by the suppression of civil liberties, wherein we know by the numbers it to be a fact that every single mass shooting except for the Lubies in Texas was in a gun-free zone. That every blue city with strict gun laws has an elevated incidence of violent crime. And therefore, every signatory to a gun law ever, under the law, should be tried, convicted, and summarily executed for their crimes. And that is not an opinion that I hold. That is the law. Despite the absence of enforcement. Steve's trying to make comments and they come back. Oh, so when I say that it never happened, that they never expanded gun rights, that's what I mean. Your gun rights are unlimited. What the court did, what they got right, is they recognized the thing that I just explained, and they said, hey, New York, you are in criminal violation of the laws of the United States of America, and you're gonna fucking quit it. And you're gonna quit it by repealing your unconstitutional law. It's a slow process. It's a process that we've been at for a long time. And I'm happy to report that to a great extent, we are winning. This may be a little bit of a backslide, but we're up to 27, maybe 20. I think 28 is about to go. I think we're up to 27. So more than half of all states are now constitutional carry states. If California, if Hawaii never becomes a constitutional carry state, that's fine. I don't ever have to go there again, and I probably won't. If California never becomes a constitutional carry state, that's fine. I'm just waiting for them to fall off the side of the fucking country and go swimming in Arizona Bay. If we get to 48 out of 50, I'll be pretty happy with that. And we seem to be moving in that direction. I think we're going to have a hard time getting New York, the D.C. area generally, and Jersey on board, but I think we've got a pretty good chance of getting, at least 40 out of 50 constitutional carry. And when that happens, it will be my sincere recommendation and my sincere hope for everyone that you just don't go to those places. And I do mean everyone. I mean starve them. I mean conduct the vote with your wallet equivalent of an active Holodomor on each of those states, which is not in compliance with the U.S. Constitution. Steve says someone will recognize constitutional carry for states' residents. That's correct. Keep your permit active for interstate travel until we have national CC. Correct. And I keep my permit active for the same reason, and it pains me to do so. But, so the Hawaii Supreme Court, the thing about the old days, the old days. The unanimous Hawaii Supreme Court ruling issued Wednesday said, borrowing a quote from Season 4, Episode 3 of the HBO series to express that the culture from the founding of the country shouldn't dictate contemporary life. And you're Hawaii. The culture from the founding of the United States of America is the only reason you have clothing. So shit right up your nose on that. Authored by Justice Todd Edens, the opinion goes on to say, this just amazes me, the spirit of aloha clashes with a federally mandated lifestyle that lets citizens walk around with deadly weapons during day-to-day activities. The ruling stems from a 2017 case against Christopher Wilson, who had a loaded pistol in his front waistband when police were called after a Maui landowner reported seeing a group of men on his property at night. The handgun was unregistered in Hawaii, and Wilson had not obtained or applied for a permit to own the gun, the ruling said. Okay, let me explain to you how firearms ownership works in Hawaii. You have to apply for a permit. They are a may issue state. They may deny it. Once you get your permit, you can go and shop for a firearm at a gun store. There are very few gun stores on the islands. You go to the gun store, and you've committed a crime. Even though you've got a permit, you go to the gun store to shop, and you can go in and shop. You can't buy anything. You try to buy something, and you're engaged in the attempted commission of a crime. First, you have to go to the sheriff's department and inform them that you intend to purchase a firearm. And they'll give you a piece of paper that says, hey, we've been notified of his intent to purchase. You take that to the firearms dealer. Then you pick out your gun. You cannot buy the gun from the dealer that day. He may have a few samples to look at. You pick out your firearm, and then he orders it. And it doesn't matter how long it takes to deliver it, there's a waiting period before you're allowed to collect it. When the period is passed and the firearms dealer has your firearm in his possession, which you have already paid up front for, several weeks in advance now, then he has notified you. You then go to the sheriff and you notify the sheriff's office that your firearm has arrived and you intend to go and acquire it from the gun store. They give you a piece of paper that you have to give to the firearms dealer to let them know that you have, in fact, officially notified the police that you're here to acquire a firearm. You then retrieve your firearm. It goes into a locked case, goes into your vehicle. At this point, once the firearm is in your vehicle, you may not stop for gas. You can't go through a drive-through. You cannot stop your car and park it anywhere for any reason other than going directly to the police department, where you will take the firearm in the locked case into the department, where you'll hand them the paperwork from the gun dealer. They will inspect your firearm. They will take pictures of it, and they will record the serial number and put it on their registry. And then they'll lock it back up. You put it back in your car, and you must go directly home. You cannot stop for any reason, and secure the firearm in your domicile. Later, if you then want to take your lawfully owned firearm through all the hoops which you jumped to acquire, and go hunting legally with a license to hunt on an approved property, you must take that locked firearm case, put it in your vehicle, and drive directly to the property. So if you want to pack a cooler full of soda pop and beer, pack some sandwiches, you have to go, you want to put gas in the car, you have to go and take care of all that, come back and get the gun, and then go straight to the place where you're going to use the gun. Pit Danny says, or you can just live in Texas. Or here. We're pretty good on guns here in Georgia, too. Not quite as good as they are in Texas. I mean, in Texas, you get a free gun with every bottle of whiskey, right? I could love that. But this ruling, the spirit of aloha clashes with a federally mandated lifestyle that lets citizens walk around with deadly weapons. Wilson's first motion to dismiss charges argued the prosecuting him for possession of a firearm for self-defense violated his right to bear arms under the U.S. Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. It was denied. Then in 2022, U.S. Supreme Court decision known as New York State Rifle and Pistol Association for Bruin upended gun laws nationwide, including Hawaii, which has long had some of the strictest gun laws in the country and some of the lowest rates of gun violence. Okay, that right there, matter of population. Just as the Bruin decision came out, Wilson filed a second motion to dismiss the case. A judge granted the dismissal, and the state appealed. So basically, Hawaii just said, well, we don't give a shit what the Supreme Court says. Now, look over to Texas for a minute. The Supreme Court said that the Biden administration can cut the razor wire. Now, the Supreme Court didn't make a ruling on a case. They just issued 2 sentences that said, yes, the U.S. government has jurisdictional authority over the border. Yes, President Biden can have his agents remove razor wire. And then Greg Abbott came out and started installing more razor wire. He said, okay, fine. Court says you can cut it down. I can put it up as fast as you can cut it down. And we get all these lefties on Twitter saying, oh, well, he's defying the court's order. The court told him he can't put up the razor wire. No, they didn't. The court didn't say anything about whether or not Abbott can put up the razor wire. All they said is that Biden can cut it down if he wants to. Right? This, however, a bunch of lefties, they're all comfortable with this. But this is a direct rebuttal and refutation of an explicit ruling by the Supreme Court. No more than Colorado or Maine throwing Trump off the ballot. No more than Joe Biden saying explicitly, I know I don't have the authority to do the moratorium on evictions, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I know the Supreme Court's going to smack me down, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that way we can get away with it for as long as we get away with it. They don't give a shit about the law. The law in this country is dead because the Democrat has weaponized the entire justice system from the meter maid to the Supreme Court to serve the agenda of lawfare, show trials, public humiliation, character assassination, and the explicit selective prosecution of criminal activity. You cannot look at the justice system as it sits and have an optimistic opinion of the direction of our country at the moment. Here's a great example. The question before the court today in the Supreme Court, where we are optimistic about the outcome because of the ludicrous precedent required to even begin the argument. The argument is that Colorado and any other states that want to can simply refuse to allow Donald Trump to be on the ballot because he committed an insurrection. Let's take a look at that for just a minute, and then I'm going to get into the DGUs. But I want you guys to understand this before the court makes their ruling. I'm not seeing this conversation being had and referencing the correct material here. The accusation is that Donald Trump led an insurrection on January 6th, 2021. Right? That's the accusation. The argument that the Democrats have presented to the Supreme Court is that because he led an insurrection, at the moment that he did that thing, he became ineligible to hold any office in the country. And it, at that moment, became the duty of every officer of the country to refuse to follow his orders. That's the argument that they've laid out. And the court is rightly rebutting that and saying, now, hold on a minute. The president is not an officer. The president is the ultimate authority to appoint officers. In order for him to be the appointer of officers, he has to be a thing which is legally distinct from officers. Ergo, the 14th Amendment that speaks about officers, etc., is not applicable to the President of the United States. And this is an argument made by the justices against made by the lawyers for Trump against the Democrat counsel is, Jesus, how... I lost a piece of it. Let me pull it back together. I don't have notes on this one. I'm talking off the top of my head. He's not an officer because he appoints the officers. Oh, and there were quote unquote Confederate insurrectionists who have been elected and held office after the passage of the so-called insurrection clause. Right? It was intended and used as a tool to politically assassinate specific high-profile individuals following the Civil War. And it explicitly does not mention the president as one of those offices. Okay, those are all great legal arguments. But let me bring you back to one. The accusation is that he committed an insurrection on January 6th of 2021. There are some things that are true about the date, January 6th, 2021. Namely, on January 6th, 2021, Donald John Trump was the president of the United States of America. He was the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and the highest executive authority in the country, in the government. An insurrection, by definition, is the armed rebellion and uprising of a portion of the citizens native to the nation against the current government. By definition, let's assume for a moment that Donald Trump planned, orchestrated, and led the events of January 6th in full knowledge and with the intent to do the thing that he did. If that's the case, then as he was president, as he was the head of the current government at the time, then the events were by definition the opposite of an insurrection. The thing that happened on January 6th could potentially be classified as an insurrection only if Donald Trump wasn't involved in it at all, because he was the local government. He was the host nation government on that day. You cannot conduct an insurrection against yourself. It is definitionally, metaphysically, ontologically impossible. So, there's that. I promised I'd get you guys some concealed, some DGUs this morning as well. I got a little more time. Let's do a couple of DGUs. Woo! I got a little spun up there. Appreciate you guys sticking with me. Okay. So here's a heartwarming story of death and destruction. Father returns fire after son shot in crossfire between two other parties. This one's from Concealed Nation. I have a son. And I can guarantee you that if I'm out and about on the town with my boy and he takes a bullet, I am going to run out of bullets and people, and I don't care which order that happens in. If you've never had a battlefield berserker rage in which you ran out of ammunition before you ran out of bad guys, you may not have a good mental picture of what I'm describing, but I know I've seen me do it. My boy's fine. He's never been shot. But I had soldiers, too. And I just spilled my coffee. Okay. Father returns fire after son shot in crossfire between two other parties. Philly, PA. This is in Joe's backyard. In Southwest Philadelphia, born and raised. Playground. Okay. Sorry. All right. A 12-year-old boy and a 43-year-old man. Ooh. Oh. That hits a little closer to home than I expected. Damn. Were injured in a shooting outside an auto shop in Lindbergh Boulevard. The incident occurred just before 4 p.m. on Tuesday. The young boy sustained a minor head wound, while the man, a mechanic, believed to be the intended target, was shot in the back and is in critical but stable condition at Penn Presbyterian Medical Center. Damn! It says the boy sustained a minor head wound. So I guess he was grazed. Surveillance footage revealed what? What do you mean surveillance footage? You don't. Okay, we got to go look at it now. Who's got the video? Surveillance footage. Oh, you sons of bitches! Don't tease me with. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Let's see what we can see. Okay, it doesn't look like that video actually captured the incident itself. What the hell? Hang on. These are notifications that might say, "Hey, fat boy, go make money." So I sometimes they sneak those in on me. Okay, they do say, "Fat boy, go make money," but tomorrow. Steve says, "How mad do you have to be at your mechanic to shoot him? Good grief!" Now, my mechanic wears a firearm, and he wears it where you can see it. Him and his daddy both. I believe I could take him, but I don't want to come out on the other side of that conversation. The boy who had just been picked up from school was fortunately released after treatment, but the family is deeply traumatized. The father expressed his distress and the difficulty of coping with the incident. As of now, no arrests have been made, although a weapon was recovered at the scene. The police are continuing their investigation and are appealing to the public for any information related to the shooting. From what we can see in that image, I can tell you off the top of my head, the neighborhood is not going to be giving any information to the officers in this story. Tim says, my 45 fits in my sporting. My 357 also fits in my sporting. Concealed Nation. Okay, I got oh, this is just the same story again. Oh no, that's a summary of all the stories on the page. That's not what I want. Okay, I'll do one more. Armed man shoots and kills dog after witnessing attack. Concealed Nation. Fort Worth, Texas, and South Fort Worth early Wednesday. Police were called to South Creek Drive at around 1 a.m. Following reports of a dog attack, witnesses reported that 3 dogs had bitten a person and were attempting to attack others. An individual witnessing the incident shot and killed one of the dogs. The shooter subsequently contacted the authorities and cooperated with the investigation. Police confirmed that the individual who shot the dog is not anticipated to face charges. However, there has been no further information regarding the remaining dogs or their owners. Wow, that was a disappointing story. Yeah, so I guess we're done with DGUs. Before we get to the safety brief, and actually this will be part of the safety brief, and I'm going to have to unplug for a second. I got a visual aid for this one. I'm going to tell you guys a story. and we'll wrap this up. So, yesterday, I was out making money with my cameras, and some of the money I was making with cameras involved a drone. I love this drone. My baby. My poor baby. And there was this is something that occasionally happens with weather. The battery reported to the controller that it had a critical low voltage failure, which basically means that even though it was a fully charged battery, in fact, I think it's still okay. It does not. Okay, it doesn't register fully charged because it was sitting up there for a while. But I was flying, taking pictures, and my poor bird fell out of the sky. Oh dear. But here's the fun bit. This happened over by Moreland Avenue. Just a little before lunchtime yesterday morning. And so I find myself kind of parked on the side of the road, staring up at the sky, trying to find my bird in basically Atlanta traffic. Walking up and down the street and crossing back and forth across the street, trying to find my bird. And thankfully, and for those of you who do fly drones, this little rubber thing on top here, that's for an Apple AirPod, which I lost in the crash, but it got me to the drone. So when you crash a bird, it's still got a battery, it's still active, it's still connected to the remote. You can't do anything because it won't let you take off from tilted, rollover, etc. Or it's damaged, it can't take off, whatever, you can't take off. As long as you're connected, your remote has GPS tracking on your bird, but once the battery dies, it's gone. I put Apple the AirTags on my drones so that I have an emergency backup GPS tracker on the bird just in case it goes down. I want to recover my bird, right? I got the drone back. It's broken, it needs to be repaired, but it's the difference between spending $200 or $300 on having it repaired and spending another couple of grand to replace it. But the incident, the adventure. So I track it. Sergeant Major says Moreland Avenue is a good place for bad stuff. So I track the drone down between the two GPS signals. I can see the imaging from the camera, so I can see the Valero sign on the gas station, and from that I can kind of judge the direction and kind of not exactly triangulate, but basically triangulate the location of the bird, and I located it. And it was stuck. The bird was stuck in the branches of a tree, big old nasty knobby dead-ass tree, hanging. So it's about 30, 35, 40 feet above the ground and about 15 feet out from the base of the tree, and it's hanging over a razor wire topped chain link fence around a junkyard that used to be a U-Haul place. Now it's a junkyard. And I get in there, and there's some rough looking older people of shall we say urban persuasion enjoying some local medicinal herbs recreationally, with the hood of one of the cars broken open, and they've just got a battery sitting on the ground wired up to the car so that the car can be turned on to play music on the speaker system, and they're just chilling. And I came, brother demanded I give him $25 to let me come on the property. I get it. Get your bag, son. Get your bag. I understand. I mean, dick move, weird flex, but do what you do. And then, I gave him the $25, and he said, I'll get that thing down for you. I pointed it out. It's right there. He said, I'll get that thing down for you. I got it, man. I get it down. And he gets up, clearly stoned, with a broken foot, and goes to retrieve not 20 or 30 foot extension ladder, which would be the correct tool for this particular job if you're, if you're inclined to do the climbing. No, he goes and gets this little like 6 foot A-frame and tries to lean it up against the side of the tree, and he's about to climb that tree. I'm like, brother, no. This is a bad idea. You're going to get hurt, and I'm not going to get my drone back. It's you can't climb out on that branch. No, man, I'll get up. No. It's out there. You can't get there from here. And I said, it's cool, brother. I got a better idea. Right? And it's a great big old tree. It's fair. It's a great big old tree. But I said, I got a better idea. I'm just going to shake the shit out of this tree until the drone falls out of it. And he looks at me and he says, man, you can't shake this big ass tree. You can't shake that tree. And I said, my man, you can't shake that tree. And I put my hands on that tree and I shook the shit out of it. And there she is. And that is going to be one of those stories that I wish I could be a fly on the wall when somebody else is telling stories about things they saw me do, because those are always fun. So, the moral of that story, and this is your safety brief, is I walked onto that property. I was polite. I was courteous. I dealt with these people as genteelly as was necessary. We had a relatively easy interaction. It cost me $20 or $25 to go on the property, which, like I said, it's a private lot. That's not totally unfair. But I sure enough did not walk onto that property unarmed. No. Right? Nothing happened, but I was suddenly in a strange place with only one exit because there's a fence around the entire property, outnumbered by people I don't know. That the interaction had a positive outcome, completely besides the point. Because it is not the positive outcome that you make preparations for. You make preparations, you plan for the worst, and hope for the best. Right? You hope for the best, but you plan for the worst. General What's-His-Face was credited for saying, I always carry a knife in case there's cake or somebody needs stabbed. Right? Plan for the best, hope for the worst. I always carry a gun in case there's cake or somebody needs shot. No, I can't cut a cake with a gun. You can't cut a cake with a gun. So I'm gonna put a pin in it there. Y'all be safe. Don't drive Drake. Don't fry bacon naked. We love you, and we will see you on Monday.